Welcome to the season 9 debut of the Football Weekly podcast. You've had the summer off from us. I mean, uh, where are you going to get your footballing information from if you're not listening to the Football Weekly podcast? There's so much to talk about. There's transfers, there's new leagues popping up, there's the TFC, there's as usual, we're talking about EPL, Serie A, Bundesliga, Liga, everything. We talk about everything. So, guys, I got a lot to say. I have a lot to say, and we'll get into it after this. Season 9 debut of the Football Weekly podcast. I can't believe I've been doing this for this long. We're getting close to, I think, 200 episodes now. So, I mean, we have been doing this for a very, very long time. And with every beginning of every season, there comes drama, there comes transfers, the silly season, as we like to call it. But this season is different because there's a new league. We're talking about transfers. There's transfers going on to different leagues that where did this league pop up from? And why are players going there? We'll discuss all of that. Discuss EPL. We'll discuss Serie A. We'll discuss VAR still ruining football. We've been talking about that for seasons and seasons. It looks like we first talked about it maybe season 4 or 5 or 6, and it's still not correct in the EPL. I think the EPL is the only league that doesn't get it right, but we'll dive into that as well. What's going on at TFC? If you're a local in Toronto, what's going on with TFC? The 2 stars you brought in are flops. They're terrible. They're actually terrible. You would think that somebody, playing in a European league, somebody playing at that high level, play for the national team of your country, would be head and shoulders above the players that are in the MLS, but you're not even the best players on your team. And that's alarming. But we'll get into that coaching change as well at TFC. But again, we'll get into all of that. We have so much time, guys. We have a full season to get into all of this. We'll touch upon everything. If not in today's show, then down the road. Don't worry, we're here. We're back. Let's start with transfers, though. Transfers. The long-running transfer saga of Harry Kane. Is he going to leave Tottenham? Is he going to stay with Tottenham? Is he going to leave? Is he going to stay? Is he going to leave? Is he going to stay? $300 million, $3 billion transfer fee for Harry Kane because he's the best player that's ever touched a foot. Anyways, so, I mean, not such a big secret for anybody that watches football, but he did transfer from Tottenham to go to Bayern Munich. And if anyone out there is still wondering what the best league in the world is, I mean, if you listen to this show, you already know what I think, who the best league in the world is. Where all the money is, it's the EPL. Well, it used to be the EPL. We'll get into that again later. But the top talents, we'll say, is the EPL. Harry Kane moved to the Bundesliga, plays for the best team in the Bundesliga. Well, perennially the best team in the Bundesliga, not by the standings this year. He already has 8 goals and 3 assists in all competitions. Would he have 8 goals and 3 assists in all competitions in the EPL? Doubt it. It's a harder league to play in, right? So, not really much to talk about. Not really much. Won't really hear much about Harry Kane when he was playing in the EPL. You couldn't get away from him. But now that he's left, it looks like the pundits have disavowed him in some way and don't want to talk about Harry Kane. But he's doing his thing out in Germany. We can start in the Bundesliga since we're talking about Harry Kane and that transfer. Bayer Leverkusen up top. It's early doors. I get it. It's early days. I understand. But Bayer Leverkusen is playing at a level that that might match one of Bayern Munich's many championship season starts. So one of my favorite players from Arsenal has gone over to Bayer Leverkusen in Granit Xhaka, and for me, it's not a surprise that he probably has them pulled up their socks and and playing well. So, I mean, kudos to them. Again, I know, like I said, it's early. I get it. Bayern Munich will come into their own later on in the season and, you know, provide a challenge, but they're in third place right now. They are in third place. I know Bayern Leverkusen is up top, is top, and then Stuttgart is a point ahead of Bayern Munich. So, who are tied for they're tied for third place with Borussia based on goal differential. They are in third place. So, I mean, again, early, but don't sleep on Bayer Leverkusen. There's always one shock team in every league. EPL, it's Brighton. Now it's not a shock anymore. They'll beat you, even though they did get their head handed to them on the weekend by Aston Villa, I believe 6-1. But that's a one-off. You're gonna lose. Everyone's gonna lose. Yeah, man. Bundesliga. So let's get into the transfers. Let's get into the transfers. And who made the biggest splash in the transfer market this year? Who do we think? Some people are sitting around saying, this amount of money is too much for this player. This amount of money is too much for that player. Who are we to say? The market dictates what the market dictates. If that guy is worth that, if that's is what the club values that player at, then that's what he's worth. If you look at a transfer like Declan Rice, I think I've mentioned this before in another podcast or another episode, or maybe not. I can't remember, but West Ham selling Declan Rice. They said, "Hey, Declan Rice is worth $105 million to us." They say, "Wow, English midfielder. How is he worth?" It's the English tax. If he was Spanish, he'd be $50 million. And he's like, "Oh well, you can look at it like that, but for West Ham, he's worth $105 million." And you have to break it down. Well, what do you say when you say that? Okay, well, he's the captain of our team. His jersey probably sells the most in our clubhouse, in our club store. It sells the most, so we're missing that revenue from that. He does advertising for the club as well. He's on posters. West Ham gets a kickback of that as well. The actual value of the player and what he means to our club. If they value that at $105 million, then that's what the price. That is the price. Harry Kane, the same $90 million, I believe he went for to Borussia Dortmund. He probably sells his jersey's the probably highest selling jersey at Tottenham. Caicedo, I don't know if his jersey was the highest selling at Brighton, but I mean, the importance of those players to those teams, maybe not so much Caicedo, because you would think Brighton would fall off the face of the earth without their talisman in the midfield, but they're right back up. They're right back up there. They're able to find diamonds in the rough. I'm going to buy this guy for $3 million, and then I'm going to sell him for 115, and we're not going to miss a beat. We're still going to play the same way, and we're not even going to miss him. It's hard to do. Some clubs can do it. Some clubs just spend, and claim that's success, which is what Chelsea, the likes of Chelsea and City and the clubs like that are doing. So, I mean, to be able to replace guys and still not skip a beat, it's credit to the coaching staff, well, as well as the scouts, So when we talk about, getting back to what we started off talking about in transfer fees, getting back to the transfer fees, it is what the club values the player at. It's not just because he's an English guy and there's an English tax. That might have been a thing back in the day, but now it's different because you have to pull revenue from different places and different streams to keep the club afloat. And if he's going to leave, I got to find someone that's going to make up that money that he made us. And if I can't find a player to make up that money, that's going to go into the transfer fee. That's the way it is, guys. That's the way it is. So when you're looking at transfer fee amounts, look at everything instead of just that guy's not worth it. Oh, I mean, that's not my defense on the Declan Rice $105 million. I mean, whatever, but that's a bargain. I know I was probably one of the biggest detractors from Declan Rice. So English midfielder, worth this, worth that. I never really watched Declan Rice play. Okay, I never really watched him. The only time I watched him play was when West Ham was playing Arsenal. That's it. I don't watch West Ham games. I don't really watch English national team games because I can't stand to listen to the English commentary. Every single English player is the best thing since sliced bread. I can't stand it. Even when it was so funny. Steve McManaman was commenting or doing commentary for BT Sports during Champions League final against Inter Milan, and it was so English versus Italian that it was crazy. There wasn't even an English player on the team on the field for Manchester City, but it was still Manchester City's an English team against the Italians. Like it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to listen to. So bad to listen to. Almost, I turned it off. I turned off the commentary for a little bit, but I want to hear the crowd and everybody and everything too. So in order to get the atmosphere, I gotta suffer through Steve McManaman and the other idiot that's doing BT Sports Champions League commentary. It's absolutely gross to listen to. Um, but yeah, there wasn't even an English player on Man City on the field. So why are we bigging this up? Steve McManaman, that's to you. Why are you bigging this up? Because they're an English team, English club? Doesn't make any sense. But anyways, okay, so I never really watched Declan Rice. So like I said, I might have been the biggest guy that was like, oh, he's not worth it. We can buy Caicedo. We can get blah, 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 whatever. But watching him play for the last 7, 8 games, all competitions, including Champions League and EPL League, it's a bargain. 105 is a bargain. He has a claim to be man of the match every single game he plays. If you're gonna replace him, you're gonna replace Granit Xhaka with Declan Rice. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. You want to keep Declan Rice? You want to keep Granit Xhaka and not buy Kai Havertz? That's a different discussion we can have later on in the season for sure. Because the way that Kai Havertz has started, that's another transfer Arsenal made. The way that Kai Havertz has started at Arsenal, there's better ways to spend 65 million. I believe it, especially when guys like Jeremy Doku and Dusan Vlahovic and those players are around that same price. Better things you can do with that money. But again, early doors. What I've seen from Declan Rice, he scored on a PK during last weekend's game. So I guess everything's forgiven now, but not with me. Not with me. So we'll see what he can do during the year. So Arsenal, I mean, I'm an Arsenal fan. If you've watched anything about this podcast, I'm an Arsenal fan. So they've brought in Jurrien Timber, who unfortunately first game of the season tore ACL, out for the season. He says he's going to be back before the end of the season, but to be back and effective, I don't know. Kai Havertz, Declan Rice into Arsenal with what they've already have and what they've already done during the other transfer windows. This is, we finally have we finally have a deep squad full of quality. It's one thing to have a deep squad; it's another thing to have quality. And we saw that quality on display against Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth is a bottom feeder in the EPL, sure, no problem. But you saw no drop-off when he started making subs, because there's a Champions League game on Tuesday. When Arteta started making subs, you saw no drop-off. They were probably even more under pressure because they were getting tired, and now we're bringing on fresh quality. Emile Smith-Rowe, Tomiyasu, Jorginho coming in. Player Reece Nelson still had other players. QER could have come in. You're not skipping a beat with those players. So that's when you talk about quality of depth. Again, easy to have a deep team. Just buy players. Look at Nottingham Forest. Just buy players. There were 30 players they brought in last season. It's not quality. Like the player that starts isn't that much better than the player on the bench. And the player that starts isn't, they're not EPL caliber winning players. They're never going to win the league with those players. So, but I mean, like, there was no drop off, and that's what I was most surprised at when he started making the subs. I want subs to be made because we got like I said, Champions League game on Tuesday. We got City the next Sunday. Gotta get guys some rest. Saka came off, Odegaard came off, Rice came off. All those players come off, but when he put the players in, no drop off. That's what you like to see. So, kudos on what Edu and Arteta are doing at Arsenal. You love to see it. I think we're still one striker away, Dusan Vlahovic, Victor Osimhen, away from being, like Hammer said, can't touch this. So we'll see what they do in the winter, or even an Ivan Toney coming in and being that guy, because we don't serve the ball into the box ever because no one's going to win it. But you bring in a big strapping striker like the three that I just mentioned, and a little bit of the game changes. Hopefully we can see that. Caicedo to Chelsea. I don't know. Is that a good move? They're actually playing right now. They're playing Fulham right now. Should be 20 minutes into the game. So after this, I'm gonna take that in. But Caicedo to Chelsea, I think it was the wrong move for him. I'm not saying he should have gone to Arsenal, but I don't think that's the right move for him. Just like the Mudryk move wasn't the right move for Mudryk. He should have gone to a place where he would be allowed to develop under a coach that can develop. Not every coach can develop players. Some coaches need already made players to come into their system. We've seen it time and time, year in, year out in the EPL. Some coaches need ready-made players. You coach him up, you get him to the level where he's one of the best in the players, and then I'll come in and buy him from you. And then stick him into my system and be, get crowned a genius. So I think Mudryk, Caicedo, maybe more so Mudryk, but not so much Caicedo, because he looks a little bit more polished than Mudryk. But Mudryk is a young kid. He needs someone that's going to nourish him and teach him the ropes. If you're paying $88 million or $100 million, whatever Chelsea paid to get him from Shakhtar Donetsk, you're expecting him to come in and hit the ground running, and he should have 10 goals already, like Harry Kane. But different. It's different with younger players. So now you're saying he looks like a flop. You signed him to an 8-year deal, so he's not going anywhere. This is the first season of an 8-year deal. He's not going anywhere. And Kai Havertz has more goals than him, and he's considered a flop, Kai Havertz. So I don't know. An English player that's gone on to be, I would love to have this guy on my team. And he went to Real Madrid, and that's Jude Bellingham. What a player. What a player. If you've listened to the show, very critical of English players because of a past host that we used to have. Shout out Liverpool. But very critical of English players because it gets under his skin. That guy, that is a player, 120 million, 130 million, whatever it is, well worth it. Jude Bellingham is probably one of the best midfielders in the world at this point right now. I don't know if it's a purple patch. I've heard his displays. I've seen his displays when he was playing at Dortmund. So I mean, I don't think it's anything that's crazy to say that he's one of the best midfielders in the world. But what he's doing at Real Madrid is absolutely nuts. Would have loved to have seen him join the Arsenal, but I think he didn't want to come back to England. But the lure of a Real Madrid, of a Bayern Munich, of a Barcelona, those big clubs with history. I'm not saying Arsenal's not a big club with history, but if you've lived in England your whole life, you probably want to get a different perspective from another league. And I know he played in Germany, but the call of Real Madrid is probably too big to turn down. So kudos to him. One of the best players in the world right now in the midfield position is Bellingham. Talked about Kai Havertz. Another surprising move for me was Sandro Tonali going from AC Milan to Newcastle. And I know it's hard for players to turn down the money, but I mean, going to the Geordie Shore from Milan, I don't know. I don't know. Um, Whenever there's a transfer involved, it's not just the player, it's the family, it's the wife, it's the kids. You're gonna move from Milan to Newcastle. I don't know. Again, there's probably a lot. There's probably more to it than just simply, Milan to Newcastle. The money is involved. Maybe that's probably about it. I don't know. I don't know. It's not like going from Paris to Milan or from Barcelona to Paris or London to to name another city, Madrid. I mean, it's like where the lifestyle's a little bit different, but you're gonna have your culture, you're gonna have your fashion, you're gonna have your good food, you're gonna have your good wine. It's a very attractive population, if you understand what I'm saying. So, to go from Milan to Newcastle, got to be money involved, and money is now the basis of everybody going to whichever league they go to now. Which is, listen. I understand it. Listen, if another job came in and said we're going to pay you triple what you're making now, I like you guys, but see you later. I'm out of here. I get it, but now you have to move to Peterborough to work there. Okay, yeah, triple the money. Yeah, okay, yeah. Look for a place in Peterborough then, I guess. So I get it, but I mean, is the wife, the kids happy from going to school and opening up your door and walking out to go get a coffee down the street at a cafe in Milan, or opening your door and going to a pub in Newcastle? I don't know. Maybe I'm giving Newcastle the short end of the stick. Maybe it's a lovely place to live. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just hearing from what people have said that have played there and traveled there and been there. It's like, I mean, a couple of days, it's okay, but eventually, you're coming from a big city, you want to get the hell out of there. But again, for all the Newcastle fans out there listening, just telling you what I've heard. So if I'm wrong, you can enter it in the comments if you like. Um, Another player that's surprisingly, and this is the last player we'll talk about, maybe one of the last players we'll talk about before we move on, and it's sneaky by Manchester City. Jeremy Doku, the Belgian winger. What a player! He was playing Euros, or he was playing somewhere. I think he might have been playing with his club team, and I think it was in the Champions League. I was just looking at him like, oh my god, that guy would look amazing on Arsenal. What a player! And to be able to snatch him up for $10 million cheaper than Kai Havertz is a sneaky bargain by Man City. I like that move. I like that move a lot. He's a type of player. He's fast. He's tricky. He's pacey. Strong. I mean, he's athletic. He's an athlete who's probably his best sport is football. Amazing pickup. So if you haven't heard of Jeremy Doku, I mean, hopefully your boy Fradiola starts to play him, and you can see exactly what he's made of there. That's a great signing by Manchester City, and that's one signing that I'd be envious of out of that fraud squad. But some of the other transfers going on in the world, we have a new league popped up in the Saudi league. You saw Ronaldo go there first. You saw some good Brazilians go there as well. Nothing, not household names, but you saw them go there, and you were thinking to yourself, "Well, it's kind of like Russian league or Ukraine league. Like all these Brazilians are there, and all these Brazilians, like Willian, Malcolm, Hulk, all those guys, they play in Brazil before they play in Ukraine or Russia before they come over to EPL, Bundesliga. Fabinho was there as well, former Liverpool, now in Saudi. So, yeah. So now the household Brazilian names are already in Saudi, but now you're talking about big names. You're talking about big names, big money, and the one that even bigger than Ronaldo, Brazilian, Portuguese Ronaldo moving, Cristiano Ronaldo moving to Saudi, Neymar. And if you're on Instagram or online or listen to any punditry or anything like that, you know what he's getting in order to play in the Saudi league, and it's ridiculous. I'm not going to go through everything that he was promised to move over there, but I mean, there's people starving in the world, eh? There's people not being able to make ends meet. And you should see, if you haven't seen what he's getting to in order to be there, you should check it out. Um, but that league's going to be a problem, and it's not. And I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers when I say this about MLS, but MLS was a retirement league. It was a retirement league. It was a league where, okay, I have a big name in Europe. Oh, well, we can talk about two players on TFC. I'm a big name in Europe. Probably can't play at the level that I need to play in Europe to be successful anymore. Let me find a league. Oh, go over to the United States, or I'll go over to Canada and play in that league. My name's big enough to garner the highest pay in the league. I'll just go over there and I'll go through the motions for a couple of seasons and I'll retire. Which is exactly what I believe Lorenzo Insigne is doing. I'm not going to put Bernadeschi in that category because he plays. You know, I'm expecting a hell of a lot more than what he's producing, but he plays. When he's not, if he's not, he's only been suspended once, I believe, this season. And I think there was a coach's decision not to play him after he came out and said Bob Bradley's a jackass, which is true. As a coach, a jackass as a coach, I don't know him as a person. I'm not here to defame anybody, but as a coach, he probably wasn't putting them in the right position to win, which is his prerogative to say. He's a player. He can say that. Got suspended for that, but he plays. Lorenzo Insigne is hurt. Every other game he's hurt. The effort isn't there. The attitude is terrible on the field. I don't know how he is in training in the dressing room, but on the field, if it's anything like his real attitude, it's terrible. It's terrible. So I know the lure of the money is what makes these leagues, successful. If you want to try to put your league on the map, you're going to have to try to get players like that. I think MLS has done a great job with what they did with Messi. They gave him the David Beckham deal where, you come in, you make a certain amount of money, but, you get a cut of the revenue from, well, now it's Apple TV that MLS is shown on. You get a cut of that revenue. You get a cut of this revenue, part of our advertising. You get a cut of that. Oh, and by the way, after your career's over, we'll give you a team to run. It's like David Beckham. So, but believe it or not, Neymar's getting more than that. Neymar's getting more than that. Again, if you haven't seen what he's getting, go check it out. If that house that they're giving him is for real, it's nuts. I read somewhere, I read someone say that's not a house, it's a neighborhood. It's true. If this house that they've mocked up and shown is true, I mean, 20,000 people could live in that house and there would still be like echoes. There'd still be echoes. It's it's obscene, but hey, if he needs it, he needs it, right? So whatever. I want to talk about TFC. I know it's local to Toronto and local to where I live. Well, actually, let's go through the standings as it stands right now. 8 games into the season. We already talked about Bundesliga, where we have Leverkusen, Stuttgart, and Bayern Munich and Dortmund tied for third with 16, 15, 14 points respectively. It's sort of looking early doors again. I said early doors, but it's kind of looking like the EPL looks like, where the top 8 teams can beat you, because the top 8 teams have top 8 teams in the Bundesliga have double digits in points. So, I mean, and there's only 6 points separating first from 8th. So it's kind of mirroring what the EPL used to look like. Speaking of the EPL, we have Manchester City on top, who just lost on the weekend, by the way, to Wolves, giving them their first loss of the season, going 6-1 now. Second place, you have Tottenham, followed by Arsenal, who are tied on points, but goal differential leaves leaves Arsenal in third place. Tottenham never should have won that game against Liverpool. Liverpool were down to 9 men and should have beat them, and were only saved by an own goal by Joel Matip. They celebrated it like they just won Champions League. It's like Thierry Henry said, there's standards, different standards at certain clubs. You're celebrating an own goal like you just won Champions League or World Cup. It's kind of embarrassing, but whatever. From a team that doesn't win a lot, you take what you can get. Liverpool, who got robbed, been robbed I think twice by VAR this year. That goal by actually, you know what? I believe it was a Tottenham game. Goal in the Tottenham game that Luis Diaz scored. That was onside. It's 2 yards onside, and they called it offside. I don't know, man. VAR in the EPL is a joke. I know that sounds surprising coming from me because I've said it a million, zillion, quadrillion, billion, trillion times, and it's a joke. It's run by fools. I corrected myself, I think, last season when I said VAR isn't the problem. It's the people running VAR. It's the car isn't the problem. It's the driver. Right? Okay. So it's not VAR. It's the people running VAR. EPL is the best league in the world with the worst officials. Why they're the worst officials? I don't know. If it's a buddy system, I don't want to embarrass you. So keep the call, even though it's the wrong call, just keep it the same way. I don't want to embarrass you in front of everybody. So just look at it. But that Luis Diaz goal was onside, 100% onside. And it hurts me to say because I hate Liverpool, but it was 100% onside. The first yellow card that Diego Jota got in that game against Tottenham as well, it's never a yellow. The guy tripped over his own feet, and they gave Jota a yellow, and then literally 5 minutes later he gets a second yellow, and he gets thrown out. Who was the player? Jones? Nico Jones? Is that his name? That's a red card. I know the pundits were out saying, "Oh, you know, on Basuma, you know, it's not a red." Yeah, it's a red card. People are now starting to say he didn't mean to do it, so it's not a red card. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Most bad things that happen to people are an accident. It still happens. If I accidentally run over someone with my car, no problem. It was an accident. Don't worry about it. I'll go on your way. No, it's not how it works. Basuma's leg more firmly planted into the ground at that time. That's broken. 100%. So because he didn't mean to do it does not mean it's just a yellow card. It's like hockey. You have to be in control of your stick. If you're skating this way and your stick's back here and it hits someone in the face, oh, I didn't mean to do it. But no punishment for that? In NHL hockey, yeah. Your stick is an extension of your body. You have to keep your body in control. You have to keep your stick in control. Just because it was an accident doesn't mean you don't get punished for it. It's a red card. It's a red card in any league. A red card in any league. So don't let Jamie Redknapp and those other idiots on TV tell you that it's not, because it is, unfortunately. So VAR ruining games. I think there was somebody put a post out on Instagram showing all the apologies that the English FA have given to teams because they screwed up on VAR. And again, you've heard it from me a million times. I don't understand how you have the opportunity to go back in time and fix a mistake and then don't fix it or make the same mistake again. You have to be an idiot. You have to be an idiot, or you're doing it on purpose. We'll leave it at that. So yeah, so we're looking at EPL. 9 points separates ninth from first. And there's a bunch, and it's bunched up from sixth to 3 points from sixth to first. It's 3 points. So I mean, the talent level and the what you need to succeed in the EPL is a little bit higher than other leagues. We move on to Serie A, and one of our hosts, Joe, would he should be happy, tied for first place with a team that he thinks should be head and shoulders above him in Inter Milan. Both Milan teams are tied on 18 points. Next is Napoli. Still have to worry about Juve. I know we make a lot of jokes about Juve, or people make a lot of jokes about Juve, but they're still around. Atalanta, as always. But every season there's a new team that comes into the EPL where do they come from? And this year I believe that's Fiorentina. 7 points from separating first from sixth, which for Fiorentina is in there. I mean, you got Bologna with 10, Lecce with 11. Like, where are these teams coming from? They're usually bottom feeders. Where are the Romas, the Lazios? Oh, where are those teams? They're well below the pace right now. So, I mean, Mourinho has to get that ship turned around at Roma if they want to, challenge for any one of those Champions League spots or Europa League or even Conference. They're 10 points away from first already. Like we always say on this show, man, you can't lose. You can't win a tie early. If you're talking about Champions League ties, 2-leg ties, you can't win it in the first game, but you can definitely lose it. So Roma needs to pick up their pace a little bit. So those are the major leagues. I know we didn't do the French league. Well, again, lots of time. First show of the season, lots of time to do everything. We had the Women's World Cup this past year with a little bit of a scandal. I don't know how you just grab a player and kiss them on the lips without their consent. I don't get it, and then refuse to quit. I don't get it. We're at that point right now where it's just I'll do what I want, and this is normal. I don't. I'll leave off with this. I only wanted to be 30-minute show, but we got 40 minutes. So I'll leave you guys with TFC. Awful season. Probably the worst season in history. For you to get rid of Bob Bradley and appoint Terry Dunfield, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Terry Dunfield isn't a coach that's going to turn anything around. If he's just a stopgap before you get your real coach, no problem. Which is what it looks like, no problem. The real problem at TFC isn't the coaching and the players. There's one constant. My dad used to always tell me, if there's one constant in shit, then you have to get rid of the constant to get rid of the shit. Right? There's one constant in all of this. You've changed coaches, you've brought in different players, you've done everything except one thing. Bill Manning's still there. And I know, what does Bill Manning have to do with the players? I'm a New York Knicks fan, and everyone, James Dolan, blah blah blah. And what does James Dolan have to do with, Julius Randle airballing a 3-pointer? What does he have to do with that? I firmly believe, what does the owner have to do with you scoring goals? It doesn't have anything to do with our team being garbage. But you always see a change in fortunes when this person comes in. Maybe this coach comes in and maybe that, blah, 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 blah. But Bill Manning's been at the helm since he let go of Vanny for whatever reason. He's made a lot of decisions for this club that are, I don't know, more of an ego, a hurt to his own ego if he allows this to happen. Why Sebastian Giovinco can't come back to this team? He might not be the same Giovinco that we had in 2017, 2018. He might not be. But is he going to be worse than anything that we have right now? I don't think so. Is he going to be worse than Insigne? It's impossible to be worse than Insigne. Is he that bad that you have him training with the squad to see exactly what he has, and he's so bad now that he can't make this team? don't know. I think it's an ego thing with him. I think the way that's Manning and Javinko left it off in the when he left, I don't think Manning is going to let him come back under his watch. I don't know what was said. I don't know, but you're cutting off your nose to spite your face at this point. If he can provide this much quality, it's this much more quality that we have on the squad now. Wouldn't it be great to see him play when Insigne's hurt? Wouldn't it be great to see him slot in and play there? Wouldn't you get a feel-good feeling with the fans, bringing them back for the last 5 games of a season that you're not going to make the playoffs anyway? Wouldn't that be something to give to the fans? Oh yeah, I know, we're garbage this year, but here's Sebastian Javinko. Go cheer him off. Maybe he comes back and plays next year. Who knows? It's something to give the fans in this god awful season that you've just put out there. It's awful. It's awful. That's just my rambling. Something I would do if I was running a business and I have a fan favorite out there who wants to play here. Who, you don't lose that. You might lose a step, but you don't lose this, and you don't lose some of your ability. He was the best player this league has ever seen. I'm including Messi and Beckham and all those guys. Javinko was the best player in MLS history. Might be biased because I'm a Toronto FC fan, maybe, but prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Anyways, so guys, that's the first episode of the season 9. I mean, we're going to do it every week. Football Weekly should be done every week, so we're going to do it every week. Hope to get some hosts and some guests in and provide different opinions to just hearing me ramble for 45 minutes. But guys, man, it's always fun. It's always nice to connect. If you don't know, you can get this on I think Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music. You can ask Alexa to play the Football Weekly podcast, and boom, it'll be there. We're on YouTube, as you can see. But subscribe. It's free. It helps grow the channel, put out more content. We can do other things during the week, just not the show. We can do other things. We can go different places and shows from there. And I know the seasons are coming to an end now locally in the GTA area. It's getting colder, so yeah. But definitely subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button. It's here. Hit it. Anyways, guys, it's been a pleasure as usual. We'll catch you next week.